chung một niềm tin, cùng một mơ ước tuổi trẻ Việt Nam. Tự hào là những cánh chim cùng bay qua muôn trùng khơi, tự hào là những bóng cây phủ xanh cả một cánh rừng, tự hào là những thanh niên đoàn viên chung một niềm tin.
Kính thưa quý vị, chương trình khai mạc Diễn đàn Khoa học sinh viên quốc tế lần thứ 3 năm 2018 sắp sửa được diễn ra. Xin trân trọng kính mời quý vị ổn định chỗ ngồi và chuyển điện thoại sang chế độ im lặng hoặc chế độ rung. Xin cảm ơn sự hợp tác của tất cả quý vị.
The third International Student Science Forum 2018 opening ceremony will start in few minutes. Please take your seat, have your mobile phone switched into silent mode, and refrain from using your mobile phones during the function. Thank you for your cooperation.
Mở đầu chương trình ngày hôm nay, xin mời tất cả quý vị và các bạn cùng thưởng thức các tiết mục văn nghệ do các bạn sinh viên đến từ các trường đại học ở thành phố Hồ Chí Minh biểu diễn.
Ladies and gentlemen and all delegates, before starting the third International Science Student Forum today, please welcome to the first singing show from Ho Chi Minh City's youth.
to know about my story, something powerful. My eyes and more of it, though I should dare to say. On and off you is on the sides of war. A film by Coppola, the helicopter from. One day I just your story. One day I finally know my story. One day I come to you to say hello, Vietnam. Hãy nói cho tôi biết chăng về họ tên mà tôi đã mang, về miền quê mà tôi ngày đêm luôn nhớ mong. Lòng tôi yêu bên đất nước tôi, đất nước đã có bao đời, được nhìn bằng đôi mắt của mình, được chịu được cơn buồn của cha. Vừa qua phim Coppola, lòng thấy xót thương quê hương. Mấy chiến thắng, mấy chiến cao, tạm phó sống thôn nhà bên. Ước mong về thăm chốn thiêng, mong sao quê hương giang tay đón tôi. Mong ước đến ngày trở về, lòng tôi yêu mến Việt Nam. Tôi sẽ theo cha về thăm làng quê tổ tiên, theo những giấc mơ mới trên mênh mông đồng lúa. Tôi thấy bao thân thương nơi đây hình quê tôi, như cây hoa gồng tôi yêu đến nước tôi. Ước mong về thăm chốn thiêng, mong sao quê hương giang tay đón tôi. Mong ước đến ngày trở về, lòng tôi yêu mến Việt Nam. Ước mong về thăm chốn thiêng, mong sao quê hương giang tay đón tôi. Mong ước đến ngày trở về, lòng tôi yêu mến Việt Nam. Lòng tôi vang tiếng Việt Nam, lòng tôi xin chào Việt Nam.
Ngày đổi mới trên quê hương ta, từ ngày đổi mới trên thành phố ta, biết bao công trình, biết bao con đường, giao thông mở lối. Từ ngày cuộc sống mang bao ước mơ, vào khu nhà mới, công viên ngôi trường, nhịp cầu Phú Mỹ, đông tây xa lộ, đường hầm Thủ Thiêm. Ta yêu sao thành phố này, từ bao con tim luôn khát khao, dựng xây nên bao nhiêu công trình, cùng nhau vươn lên tầm cao mới. Ta yêu sao thành phố này, bàn tay khối óc chung tấm lòng, bài ca tương lai vui đón chào, tự hào thành phố mang tên Bắc.
Các bạn có thể vỗ tay theo bài hát được không ạ? Cảm ơn ạ.
Từng ngày đổi mới trên quê hương ta, từng ngày đổi mới trên thành phố ta, biết bao công trình, biết bao con đường giao thông mở lối. Từng ngày cuộc sống mang bao ước mơ, bao khu nhà mới, công viên ngôi trường, nhịp cầu Phú Mỹ, đông tây xa lộ, đường hầm Thủ Thiêm. Ta yêu xa thành phố này, từ bao giờ tim luôn khát khao, dựng xây nên bao nhiêu công trình. Ta yêu xa thành phố này, để tăng cao mưa tim luôn khát khao, dựng xây nên bao nhiêu công trình. Ta yêu xa thành phố này, để tăng cao mưa tim luôn khát khao, dựng xây nên bao nhiêu công trình. Ta yêu xa thành phố này, để tăng cao mưa tim luôn khát khao.
Lời đầu tiên thay mặt cho ban tổ chức Diễn đàn Khoa học Sinh viên Quốc tế lần thứ 3 năm 2018 kính gửi đến toàn thể quý vị và các bạn những lời chào trân trọng và lời chúc tốt đẹp nhất.
First of all, on behalf of the organizing board, I would like to welcome distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on delegates being here today.
Kính thưa quý vị đại biểu, nhằm tạo mục tiêu môi trường giao lưu học thuật giữa sinh viên thành phố Hồ Chí Minh với sinh viên các tỉnh thành trên toàn quốc cũng như sinh viên các nước trên thế giới, chào mừng Đại hội đại biểu Hội Sinh viên Việt Nam toàn quốc nhiệm kỳ 2018-2023, Hội Sinh viên Việt Nam thành phố Hồ Chí Minh phối hợp cùng Đại học Quốc gia thành phố Hồ Chí Minh tổ chức Diễn đàn Khoa học Sinh viên Quốc tế lần thứ 3 năm 2018 với chủ đề nguồn nhân lực trong cuộc cách mạng công nghiệp 4.0.
Dear distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on delegates, in order to create opportunities to exchange knowledge between students in Ho Chi Minh cities and other provinces, as well as students from other countries, in order to celebrate National Congress of Vietnam National Union of Students, term 2018-2023, Vietnam National Union of Students of Ho Chi Minh Cities, in collaboration with Vietnam National University of Ho Chi Minh City, are honored to organize the third International Student Science Forum with the topic Human Resources in the Industry 4.0.
Trong năm 2018, Diễn đàn Khoa học Sinh viên Quốc tế đã nhận được sự tham gia nhiệt tình của các bạn đại biểu đến từ Campuchia, Canada, Hàn Quốc, Indonesia, Lào, Nga, Singapore, Việt Nam, Đài Loan và Trung Quốc để tham gia diễn đàn. Các đại biểu đã gửi bài xoay quanh nguồn nhân lực trong cuộc cách mạng công nghiệp 4.0 và hôm nay các bạn sẽ cùng lắng nghe, chia sẻ và thảo luận những vấn đề xoay quanh chủ đề của diễn đàn. Đó là lý do của chương trình sáng nay.
In 2018, ISSF have proceeded to receive the attention and participation not only from Vietnamese but also from international students such as Cambodia, Canada, Laos, Indonesia, South Korea, Singapore, Russia, and Taiwan, China. All the delegates have had an essay related to the topic Human Resources in the Industry 4.0. And today, all of us are here to listen, to share and discuss the issue which a lot of students are concerned about. That is also the reason for today's program.
Đến tham dự trong chương trình hôm nay, ban tổ chức rất vinh dự được đón tiếp và trân trọng giới thiệu có sự hiện diện của các đồng chí lãnh đạo và các vị khách quý.
Attending to the opening ceremony of the third International Student Science Forum, it is our great honor to welcome Mr. Nguyễn Mạnh Cường, Deputy General Director of Southern Office of Ministry of Science and Technology.
Mr. Phạm Thanh Sơn, Deputy Head of Science Education Division, Propaganda Department of Ho Chi Minh City Policy Committee.
Professor Vũ Hải Quân, Vice President of Vietnam National University, Ho Chi Minh City.
Professor Nguyễn Kỳ Phùng, Deputy Director of Ho Chi Minh City Department of Science and Technology.
Dr. Lê Hữu Phước, Vice President of University Social Sciences and Humanity, Vietnam National University, Ho Chi Minh City.
Mr. Nguyễn Việt Quế Sơn, Standing Deputy Secretary of Ho Chi Minh City Committee Young Union, Chairman of Ho Chi Minh City Vietnam National Union of Students.
Mr. Đoàn Kim Thành, Members of Standing Committee of Ho Chi Minh City Communist Youth Union, Director of Science and Technology Development for Youth Center.
Cùng với sự tham gia của các thành viên ban tổ chức, đại diện hội sinh viên các trường đại học cao đẳng trên địa bàn thành phố Hồ Chí Minh, đặc biệt là sự có mặt của 70 đại biểu chính thức của Diễn đàn Khoa học Sinh viên Quốc tế, cùng sự tham gia của 200 sinh viên thành phố, ban tổ chức cũng rất hân hạnh được đón tiếp quý anh chị phóng viên, biên tập viên các cơ quan thông tấn báo chí đến tham dự và đưa tin cho chương trình.
Together with all members of the organizing board, representatives of university, and especially 70 official delegates of the third International Student Science Forum 2018, and more than 200 students from universities and colleges in Ho Chi Minh cities, the organizers also have the honor to welcome and thank all the reporters, editors, and of media agencies to attend a report about the forum. Once again, let's take a warm applause to welcome all.
Kính thưa quý vị, để mở đầu chương trình Diễn đàn Khoa học Sinh viên Quốc tế lần thứ 3 năm 2018, trân trọng kính mời Phó Giáo sư Tiến sĩ Vũ Hải Quân, Phó Giám đốc Đại học Quốc gia Thành phố Hồ Chí Minh sẽ lên phát biểu khai mạc.
And to open the third International Student Science Forum 2018, I would like to invite Professor Vũ Hải Quân, Vice President of Vietnam National University, Ho Chi Minh City, to make the opening speech.
Hello. Okay, good. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our beloved students, on behalf of the Vietnam National University, I would like Ho Chi Minh City, I would warmly welcome you to the third forum. That forum makes the topics very special for us. So I was wondering why we choose the topics today about the human resource in the industry of 4.0. So personally, I think that there are three aspects, three things that we should consider. First is about the era of change. Things change quickly. Many jobs, new jobs appear, and also many jobs disappear. We now have data scientists. We now have shipper. That in the last 10 years, we haven't had it yet. Secondly, I think it's about the new technology. The new technology. So with the AI, artificial intelligence, with the automation, with the robots, with automation, robots, and etc. So it's creating the new opportunities and of course the new uncertainties. So to meet the challenge, what should we prepare? So that I think the purpose, the goal of the forum today and also tomorrow. And VNU, Vietnam National University, Ho Chi Minh City, is very proud to be a part of the forum today. So from VNU point of view, what our students should prepare for Industrial 4.0? We think and we propose 5 characteristics. First is academic. What academic is? We should change from monodisciplinaries to multidisciplinaries. So it means we have comprehensive education, not only focus on professionals, but liberal art, for example. That's the first thing. Secondly, collaboration and experiential. I will talk about collaborations and experiential later. And third, industry. We have to work with industries like you. You should go for internship, for example, to learn from the real things, from the things that the school doesn't have. Fourth, lifelong learning. Because everything changes quickly, so you have to have spirit of lifelong learning, keep learning continuously, improving continuously to match with the demand. And finally, entrepreneur. Entrepreneur here doesn't mean that you finish the school, go out, open a company. No, it's okay. It's not on thing. It's not on a mean. By entrepreneurs, I mean that we had an ability to face with challenge, to overcome the challenge, not seeing the challenge and go to different ways. No, that's not the spirit of entrepreneur. So 4 characteristics that VNU Ho Chi Minh City encourage our students to take part, to join, to study, and to promote. So I go back with the second one, collaboration and experiential. So by today, it's kind of collaboration. You come here, you meet with your friends, take a partner, make a presentation, listen for other presentation from experts, etc. Shake hands, keep the email, discuss about the issue that both of you interested with. So that kind of collaboration and experiential. You go to different countries, experience with different kind of food, different kind of culture. So it helps you, like you can be able to be ready to go to different countries to work for the next, or maybe next year or the next couple of years. So it is very important for me personally. It's very important. I hope that the forum, after you spend some days with your friends, with your partner, you gain a lot of things. And VNU would very much like to thank for the Youth Union, for the Department of Science and Technology, for the VNU University of Social Science and Humanities, who somehow organized by a lot of things of work, facility to bring the forum today. And I wish you have a successful event. Thank you very much.
Trân trọng cảm ơn Phó Giáo sư Tiến sĩ Vũ Hải Quân.
Thank you, Professor Vũ Hải Quân.
Kính thưa quý vị và các bạn, Ban tổ chức Diễn đàn Khoa học Sinh viên Quốc tế rất hân hạnh được đón tiếp các nhà khoa học đến tham dự chương trình khai mạc và phiên toàn thể diễn đàn hôm nay. Chúng tôi xin trân trọng giới thiệu 3 nhà khoa học cũng là diễn giả chính.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and all delegates, attending to the forum today are many experts and leading scientists. On behalf of the organizing board, we would like to present flowers as our gratitude to the speakers. Please welcome on stage.
Các diễn giả chính sẽ gồm có Phó Giáo sư Tiến sĩ Trần Minh Triết, Phó Hiệu trưởng Trường Đại học Khoa học Tự nhiên, Đại học Quốc gia Thành phố Hồ Chí Minh.
Associate Professor Trần Minh Triết, Vice President of University of Science, Vietnam National University, Ho Chi Minh City.
Phó Giáo sư Tiến sĩ Nguyễn Quốc Hưng, trưởng khoa kỹ thuật, Giám đốc Trung tâm Chuyển giao công nghệ và quan hệ công nghiệp, Trường Đại học Việt Đức.
Associate Professor Nguyễn Quốc Hưng, Dean of Faculty of Engineering, Director of Industrial Relations and Technology, Transfer Centers at Vietnamese German University.
Tiến sĩ Andrew Smith, giảng viên khoa công nghệ, Trường Đại học MIT Việt Nam.
Dr. Andrew Smith, Lecturer of RMIT Vietnam University.
Xin trân trọng kính mời 3 vị diễn giả sẽ lên sân khấu để nhận những bó hoa tươi thắm của ban tổ chức thay cho lời cảm ơn.
I would like to invite Professor Vũ Hải Quân and Mr. Nguyễn Việt Quế Sơn to be on stage and present these beautiful flowers to our speakers.
Trân trọng kính mời Phó Giáo sư Tiến sĩ Vũ Hải Quân và đồng chí Nguyễn Việt Quế Sơn sẽ lên tặng hoa cho các diễn giả.
Student Science Forum 2018. Professor Trần Minh Triết to be upstairs the stage to share about the topic artificial intelligence and modern social, how AI affects the labor.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and all the distinguished guests, also for students to attend this special conference. So the first thing before we prepare for this one, we try to get to know each other. So first thing first, before we start for the talk today on how we can apply for AI to improve the quality of life, I just think that the youth will be the very potential generation just to improve the quality of yourself and other people in the society. So the first question is, any of you want to be a researcher in the future? Please raise your hand.
Just few of you, okay. Who want to be an entrepreneur, to have your own startup business in your future? Raise your hand. What about the other in the rest of you? You want to be both scientists as well as entrepreneur? Good. So we try to think about how we can take advantage of advancements in AI, machine learning, and things like that to create crazy things. Of course, you should have the knowledge. You should capture all the things in the knowledge and apply in the real scenario. Only then can you create something new, innovative, and you can have something like benefits. It can be just your passion. It can be something like you get salary, you want to get something like business. But the most important thing is that you must find what can be very interesting topic of interest. Only then can you find a solution for that. So let's begin. I just want to keep this one short. Let's try. This works. Good. Okay, so the story today I would like to tell you briefly in about something like 20 minutes or 30 minutes only. That is what we can choose as promising topic for your research, for your own startup, or even anything you just saw for daily activity. So we have, what is meant by daily activity or activity logs? The next one, how we can analyze those things for smart interaction. It can be some augmented service or something like data you can provide for people. It can be something like you can try to find lost items or memory in the past. It can also be something like you want to revive your past memory when you visit your parents in the countryside, you visit your grandparents, or you want to look back into the memory in the past. Or even you want to detect for anomalies in traffic, in examination, or things like that. And finally, you can also have the simulation of different events in virtual environment for education, entertainment, and things like that. Smart city. How many of you haven't heard anything regarding for smart city within the last 12 months? Maybe no. We usually refer, especially for young guys, we usually have the word smart city, right? But with just think, if you have a smart city, you must have a smart citizen. You can only become a smart user, smart developer, smart contributor in society. Only then can we have enough information for our people to live in a smart environment. So smart environment and smart user, we focus on the following properties. The first one, smart environment, it can be your smart office, smart classroom, smart house, or you can have the smart town or smart city. In this environment, you are provided with smart features, utilities, and services, and the system implicitly monitor and collect all the things even you don't really recognize. And it provides infrastructure and support for further development in the future, not only by you, but other people in the society. But if you want to become a smart user, you must know to exploit efficiently all the smart features and services by the environment. The next one, you should contribute back into the ecosystem. You should provide information. You should become a sensor in the environment. And even you can develop further utilities for other people to use. So now, what kind of devices and what different context you can collect the daily activities? The first one, surveillance cameras. I just look around. I don't really see if any of you can find the cameras inside this building. Maybe yes. Don't try to create something wrong in this building. But we also have the personal and private system. You know GoPro? Traveling abroad, and you just have the mounted GoPro on your head or in your shoulder. You just to capture different moments of interest in your life. So we usually have multiple sources for video, images every day. It can be from public or private system. So the information is very useful, but it can be applied into application only when you know how to exploit those things. So the first one, let's try to see. Okay, move next. Traffic analysis. Let's try to see. Oh. Oops, sorry. I have to check this one because I cannot see the video to be played. Just wait for a few seconds. Please wait. Yeah, it should work. And view, slideshow. Okay, good. Okay, we usually think about smart traffic monitoring system. This one was presented in CVPR 2018 as a competition of NVIDIA just to detect anomalies and detect different cars and vehicles. And you can see in the ideal scenario, we have very clean and clear environment to look at in the top left. However, in a dark environment, you have bad illumination, and you cannot recognize easily the car. Just look at something like the light of the car, and you try to count how many cars are there in the street. And even you can have manually recorded video with vibration like this in the bottom right corner. How can you process in the low quality with vibration like that? And even you can have shaking, blurring camera in the bottom left corner. So we have different scenarios. And what can you do with this one? The first one, anomaly detection. What will happen if you're traveling in a highway and the bus or the car, it dies? So how can other people try to save you then? Just in here, some problem happens. So if you just look at hundreds of cameras every day and try to wait for the event to happen, no, it is not very easy task for you. You should have a mechanism to look just to give the guidance for people. I think this can be something strange happen, and you just look for such scenario only. We should not look all the days, 24 hours per day, 7 days a week. No, this is not good. You should have the mechanism to analyze and detect special events. This is what you can think you can do. Maybe some of you already learned about computer vision or machine learning. You try to apply for this one to solve, hey, can I detect some special events like this? It will save time. Oh, in this one, it's also something like anomaly event detection. And you can see a car just stalled here like this without any movement. You can check and you can try to have special devices or service just to save this one. Some challenge in this one can be the shadow. We can process in ideal environment, but in reality, you can have some special condition, the shadow created by trees or even by the vehicle itself. So in this one, you can try the algorithms to remove automatically the shadow. You can see in the left some example. In general case, you still have the shadow, but in the right, you try to ignore for the shadow when you process for the flow of the bicycle in this one. It should save you from some problems. Just remove this one, okay? But in this one, can you count how many cars are there in such a crowded environment like this? Can you count? You can count. Of course, you can tell any number you want. You can guess. How can other people verify? Right? You say 100, 1,000, or things like that. It should be a reasonable number, but not many people can exactly verify the number. This one can be thought of as regression. You just learned from experience from the past. You see the picture in the left, and someone tell you this one contains 122 vehicles. And you have multiple examples in the past, and you have experience. Only then you can use experience to predict for future. Maybe the MC, they have very good skill of predicting how many people are there in the audience like this. They don't really can't just look around and say, oh, crowded, so I can guess the number. So detect and monitoring traffic system, you don't really need to detect any specific scenario. You can have particular items to be counted, or you just guess. This one can be used for you to guess. The next one. What can we apply? I don't really want to focus on the traffic only. Can you have a similar approach for different contexts, different environment? In a supermarket, we have multiple lanes for people to check out, right? And maybe we have very crowded and long line waiting just to check out with the goods you want to buy. So if in a very crowded, something like when many people try to buy stuff in a supermarket, you try to open multiple lanes at one time in parallel. But when only few people just in a supermarket, you can close several lanes and you can serve people to relax. So can you estimate the density and the number of people in the supermarket in order to open just enough lanes to save time and you can reduce costs in something like not many people in the supermarket? It can be applied in the same approach. You don't really need to count the people, you just estimate. This one, very crowded, open more land. This one, not many people, close, and then you can save people from doing this. And when you have the student environment in the universities, I just want to know, can you guess what is the peak time? That means many people try to submit the documents into the universities and colleges. It is in the very first day or the very last day of the period for enrollment. If you know the knowledge in the past, and you can even have some cameras to count how many people are there, then you can easily estimate how many windows you should open to serve people for enrollment into the university. Tourism and attractions. 10 years ago, when I first arrived at Disney Sea in Tokyo, I have to wait for 3 hours in a long line just to come into one attraction. So if we have an application that can save people from waiting by looking into the map, you have the map like this, and you can use your smartphone to look around over the surface of the map. And you say, hey, this area is very crowded, you need to wait for 1 hour. This one, yeah, you can go right now, you wait only for 5 minutes only. So instead of looking into a static map printed, you can have some augmented information to be provided by your smartphone. So you can have something smart tourism guidance for people in then. And the information will be provided in real time. You just have the camera to be placed in different areas in the tourist place. And you can know this one is very crowded, you should not go here. This one, okay, you can go right now. So you have the advice for people to choose different location of interest like this. The next one, we need the air conditioner to save us from very hot summer and even in very cold winter, right? But you can adjust the temperature of the air conditioner by looking at different crowds here, many people inside, we adjust the temperature, okay? So we can apply the same approach. The next one, news. Just have a look in location-based news visualization like this. You have news posted by social networks. The news can be from regular newspapers and journals. Then you can automatically detect the location corresponding to the news. For example, today we have the opening ceremony of this very special 10th National Congress of Vietnam National Union of Students. Okay, or you can look in here. Any information like this, you have the news, and then you can extract the location. Then you put the news on the map like this. So people can easily follow the information corresponding to the geographic location. Next one. Have you ever heard the word social listening? Social network? Yes. Social listening? Sometimes you try to know if anyone just post something related to you. If you're very famous or you have a very famous brand name in a company, you want to listen. Hey, there are multiple news or articles published related to our brand name or our products. And then you want to analyze. This is a positive or negative information about you, your company, or your brand name. So social listening is one of very interesting topics of interest. And then you can look for face recognition. Face recognition is that you can know who this one is by looking at the face of that guy. Why I mentioned about this one? We usually post different news on newspaper. If you automatically analyze and see, hey, I appear on a newspaper or the television program. This is very good. But how can you monitor all the newspapers every day? You just have this service to look around for you and just give you the moment that you appear on a newspaper or television program. For example, you have this special program this morning and you have the photo be taken by the organizer or the committee here. And then you wait for the newspaper tomorrow to post the news. And you have to look around for 10 different newspapers just to look for your face. You can use this service just to save you. The next one, analyzing the personal information. The first part, public information, now the private information. You usually take photo when you arrive at a certain location. Sometimes you want to look back into the past, just to revive your memory. Maybe some of you already knew this one. This is Mr. Lê Ying Thanh. And you have two different photos taken at two different time instants, sometimes in the past, sometimes recently, but at the same location. We have the habit to do like this. So you can use machine learning, AI, or things like that, just to look for similar photos in the past. When you post photos on Facebook, social networks, then maybe in the future you just upload a new photo, but you want to revive and load different photos in the past, having the same scene, having the similar context, having the same people in the image. We usually have the feature on this day. Do you know this one? On this day in Facebook? You can look for the memory 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, right? But why don't we have a similar on this place? You take a photo, and other of your friends also have a photo in this place. It is very good. So we can think, hey, I can provide a mechanism to look around for the similar photo taken by myself, my friends, my colleagues, and it is very interesting for you to collect those things all together. Where's my lost item? You want to find your very lovely toy provided by your parents when you are 3 years old, teddy bear, things like that. But how can you find the item that you already lost in the past? Maybe you just give an example of a very small photo of that one, and you look through all the photos to see the last time you take the photo of this one. It can give you a hint to search for the item of interest. Or it can be something. Let's say I just dropped my smartphone somewhere. And how can I find that one? If I have the camera to be attached into my body, it can take every photo in every minute. And then I say, oh, I forgot my phone somewhere. You just look back into the collection. It can be your diary every day. And you can find, hey, this is the last time I still find my smartphone. It's very good. The next one, if you are traveling, something you are hungry, and you want to have some like KFC or McDonald's or different kinds of restaurants, but you cannot remember exactly where it is. So you just look back into the memory in the past by looking through maybe something, the camera attached into your vehicle, your motorbike, or your car to see the nearest restaurant that you already passed by. It will help you to find just by processing the video. The next one, the real thing. Landmark recognition for tourism. Many of you, this is the first time you arrive to Vietnam in Ho Chi Minh City, and you need someone in Ho Chi Minh City just to show you the way to visit historical places. If you just travel by yourself and you use your smartphone, you need someone to tell you this building is the University of Social Sciences and Humanities just by looking at only the entrance gate of the university. And this is something like the post office of Ho Chi Minh City. So you should have an application to recognize where you are and what the location can be. This is called landmark recognition. Google also provides this one. However, for Vietnam, not all the places in Vietnam are available for you to recognize using your smartphone. It can be very interesting for you to do this. Okay, I just skip this one. Food. When you travel to a different regions, even in one country, or you travel abroad, can you know the name of the food? Or you just say, oh, I love this one, it looks nice, and I just eat it. However, it is very spicy. You know the ingredients inside the food? Maybe no. So people usually have the tendency to take photo of the food before they eat, right? People love selfie. People love taking photo of the food, right? If you can provide, this food has the following name, and 10 of my friends already enjoy this one, and they recommend me to eat this one, and the ingredient contain the following material, and spicy food or things like that, and the last one will be the calorie. Maybe now you're very young, you don't really care, you don't really worry about the calorie you consume every day. However, when you get older, maybe you need to say, oh, I need to have something like fast. I should not eat too much, something like that. So you need to take a photo and you get the corresponding calorie of this one if you consume such food. Attitude. You take a photo. But can you find interesting attitude that your friend might think about you? This is called social relation trait. It is not your emotion. This is what you think about other people. It can appear in the appearance of the people in one photo. It can appear in your facial expression. It can appear about your attitude towards someone. You try to become closer or you try to stay away from someone. This can be analyzed automatically from the photos you post every day. So we come to the conclusion. What daily activity can be used? It can be used to answer. You can find the item from the digital self. You can validate a memory. You can also have the contextual support. For example, when you go into the restaurant, when you go into the supermarket, and you don't really remember exactly what is the brand name of the food you want to buy. So when you arrive into the restaurant or you when arrive in the supermarket, your smartphone will just appear the list of what you usually purchased in the past. This is a recommendation based on the context. The next one, it can reflect self-discovery. Sometimes you cannot recognize you fall in love with someone, right? Just by analyzing by the photo like this, maybe the system tries to say, hey, I think you might fall in love with some lovely girl like this. So try to do something stronger, right? So this one is used for self-discovery. It can be used to quantify self-analysis. I am eating too much. You just have all the photos taken of the food you consume every day, and you have the estimated calorie you consume. Then you say, oh, today I consumed too much calorie. I need to perform some exercise to reduce all the calorie, to burn the calorie. So it can be used to quantify self-analysis. Reminisce. Do you feel lonely when you study away from your family? Maybe yes. Especially for the very first time you travel abroad, in the very first several months, honeymoon, very good. You love to stay in other countries. You love the new culture. But after the first 3 months, then you feel some loneliness, homesick. So maybe you look into the memory in the past and you have to revive all the things. It can be used for reminiscence or therapy to save you from loneliness in other places. And remind, contextual remind. So I've explained to you some ideas on how we can exploit information captured in daily life from public services, surveillance camera, newspaper, social networks, and from private channels. It can be your social Facebook, it can be something like your personal channels, or even the photo you take in your smartphone every day. And now what can be your responsibilities for society and what you can contribute back into the society. I would like to mention about the crowd sensing. We cannot have smart environment without information. You can use a smartphone to capture and report to the city special events you find every day. It can be a traffic jam. It can be an accident. It can be some flooding. It can be anything strange you can find. But how can you report to the society? How can you report to the government? You can take a photo and send using your application. You can make a telephone call into the emergency office of the city to report something. Or you just send a message. But how can people in the office of the city to process automatically? They have to listen to your story. They have to look into every photo you send. They need to analyze the video you report, time consuming, and they need to wait for every people to report like that. So there should be a mechanism just to detect special events or anomalies, or they can automatically convert your spoken language into the text to be processed automatically by the machine. This is very good, right? So crowd sensing and citizens as a census is very important, but we also need a mechanism to automatically process the information reported back into the government to exploit information provided by the people. And live log, it can be applied into different applications. And I would like to discuss with you after my presentation regarding on what you think you can do to join in this one. So this is my very brief introduction, and I would like to thank you very much for your attention. And now it can be something like a discussion. We still have time. I don't really know how many minutes we can have, but maybe the discussion on how we can join in this community with smart features like this. How can you contribute back into the society, and how can you develop different services to enhance the quality of life for people? Thank you very much. Okay, I think we still have time. So I would like to have any of your questions regarding this one. Could you please? I still remember you, right? Yes.
My question is, do we have the, appropriate infrastructures for the smart city yet?
Oh, thank you very much for this one. To answer this question, we must define what the level of the infrastructure you expect. If you have something like ideal infrastructure, so never can we have an ideal infrastructure. But at least we have the minimum requirement in order to establish very first, very basic services for the people. For example, you can use, the first one is the public telephone network. You can send SMS. You can have 3G, you can have 4G connection. And now you can assume 4G, right? LTE, maybe you can even use LTE if you have enough battery to use. So communication can be established for the infrastructure. But the next one should be how you can handle the data. Data, a lot. So you can collect, you must process, and then you have the inference to get the knowledge from the data. We have data to be available at any time, at anywhere. So you should have some special application to use the machine learning AI approach to extract useful information for the processing. Only then can you do that. And the next one is information should be provided. So you need many people to contribute into this one. And you also need the developers and different organizations to deploy the smart service to collect and to provide information to you. So infrastructure, you can say yes, but not enough and never enough. Thank you. Yes, would you please?
Okay.
Yes.
I want to say hi to everyone in this conference. And my name is Bing, and I come from Dong Nai University in Vietnam.
Yes, nice to meet
And
you.
I want to ask you a little bit about the impact of VR and AR on the human resources. Especially, does it reduce the number of the job in the future?
Okay, great. Thank you very much for asking very interesting topics. And when you look into about the VR and AR in the society, the following keywords are very commonly referred in recent years. The first thing is that we have to explain the differences between AR and VR first. For virtual environment, virtual reality, you just see the virtual information to be rendered to you. Oculus Rift, maybe you can have that one for virtual reality. How about augmented reality AR? It is the combination of the reality together with something unreal to be augmented into that one. It can be photo, it can be music, it can be text. But when you have the support from VR and AR, you can save time. But it does not necessary to take away the job for people. I want to show you the video in this one. I have just presented 2 or 3 days ago. Please wait. I'm going to show you an example on how we can take advantage of virtual reality to enhance our lives. This is one of our research projects and presented only 2 or 3 days ago in Japan, in VRST. It is an application on how we can, let's say, how we can take advantage of virtual environment to enhance the people in virtual environment for traveling. Let's have this one. This one was created to simulate when you're riding every day. And in this one, we just estimate whether people can exactly perceive the velocity of your movement just by the illusion of looking into the environment like that. So you can easily adjust the virtual speed easily. Original speed in the center, but you can have the slower or faster speed like this. Can people recognize the differences? Okay, so what can we do like this? We can create a virtual education room to teach young kids on riding, right? You don't really need them just to ride in the very dangerous road at the very first time. You can use this one to save time and help people for riding in a safe environment. Okay, so we don't necessarily have the job to be taken away, but you can have different ways to deliver the cost to young kids like this. But the next one will be how your feeling in a virtual environment can be the same with those in the reality. Okay? When you just use this one to stop the bicycle, it can stop exactly at the moment you press in the game. But in reality, maybe no. You just press this one and you just move forward into a few meters away, right? So should be some correspondence in the virtual and the reality. That is the first one. Or even you can compress the environment in the virtual environment, and maybe you have the people should be reallocated into the reality again. So virtual reality and augmented reality can be used something like a utility to enhance your life, but it depends on how you can do that. You can bring people away, you can just have the machine, or you just have the people to assist the machine to work. So I think it just changed the task of the people from using or not using the machines. We don't really worry about the job to be taken away, okay? Yes, could you please?
Vietnamese delegate. I'm from Hà Nội Law University, and I have a question for you. As your presentation about many developers technologies, I have a question about are there any limitation in applying the technologies at this moment? Yes.
We have advantages. Do you have any ideas regarding for the limitations or something we should restrict those technologies in our daily lives? Any of you, do you have any ideas on that? You love to be in the virtual environment, so you can be a hero. You can ride with very fast speed in the virtual environment because you don't really worry about the dangerous accident to be happen. There is nothing harm with you. And then you become a hero in the virtual environment. Then you move back into the real environment, and you can think, oh, there's nothing to worry about that because this is just a game. Right? This is an example, right? So any technology can be applied in two different aspects, good side and a bad side. I would like to share with you another story regarding for AI for security. Do you know the CAPTCHA? It is used to prevent people from flooding the service, right? But for the CAPTCHA, you just have many characters to be recognized and you must to type in exactly. Machine learning can be used to recognize those characters so that you can bypass automatically the CAPTCHA easily. Even with the semantic capture having all the photos from Google, things like that, you can use very simple network from ResNet or things like that in machine learning to recognize images. So you can see, oh, this photo is a car, this one is the traffic light, or things like that that you can bypass. So machine learning can be used to bypass CAPTCHA easily, good or bad, one thing. The next one, you can easily generate fake video. We can have motion capture. We can capture the face of someone and you reproduce the motion of different muscles in your face toward another face. Then you can generate a very bad video about the real one. And how can you do that? It is a bad guy, right? So machine learning, AI, technology, smart services can be used in two different trends. It depends on how you think and what you want to be, okay? You want to watch a video that we can generate the face, the virtual face of very beautiful actresses and actors, but it is not the real one. You want to see? Okay, I just want to show you. Meanwhile, you can have a few questions more if you want to. Any further question? While I just look for my, my slide. So sorry, the following slide was prepared in Vietnamese, but I can explain briefly on how you can do this. Just remove. Okay, we can just look in here. CAPTCHA can be processed easily just by using machine learning. I can show you the name or the title of several papers if you want to break the semantic image capture in 2016, or even you can break audio capture using a paper in 2017. Just look this one, and if you want to use, it depends on your choice. In the left, you want to generate handwritten digits from 0 to 9, and the machine can try to mimic the way you write digits. In the right, we can generate virtual actor and actresses from the knowledge of celebrities. And you can look, it looks nice after 18 days of training, and now you can have virtual characters. Easily, right? And try to see this one. Morphing from one virtual character to another virtual character easily. So you can easily have one photo of one people and you generate a video corresponding to your story. I can control someone else to generate the wrong video. Okay. So, thank you very much for your interest in my presentation and the discussion. And I really hope that you will enjoy your staying in Vietnam as well as the programs in this special event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Trần Minh Trí. And now we will continue to the presentation of Associate Professor Nguyễn Quốc Hưng with the topic Strategic Approaches to the Education Trends in the Context of Industry 4.0. Please welcome to the stage.
Okay. Good morning to everybody. Yeah. Good morning, students. So my talk is about some trends in the education trends in the Industry 4.0. Okay, so I a little bit introduce myself. I work in Vietnamese German University. So is it a choice university between the Vietnamese government and the German government. Okay. So I also work as the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering. So my major is totally in engineering. I go in the mechanics, and more of my research is focused on the smart materials and smart structures. So, but today's presentations is about not too much related to my research topic, because I got the invitation from the organizers to present some topic about the education trends in the context of Industry 4.0. Somehow, if you have any question about related to the smart structures or smart materials and the application in the Industry 4.0, so I'm ready to answer your questions also. Yeah. So the contents of my talk is first I make a brief introduction about from the first to the fourth industrial revolutions. Then I focus on the 6 drivers of the change by the IR4, and then the skills of tomorrow need in the IR4 world, and some change of habits in the generation. I say generation, yes, that means your generation. I mean the generation who now join the university. And the need for Industrial 4.0 frameworks, and finally I will present a little bit about, say, 5 I's of learning education in education 4.0. Okay. So this is an overview from industrial revolution for the first to the fourth. So something wrong with this, right? Sorry. So as you know, our first industrial revolution is driven by, the power by the water and the steam is initiated in the 18th century. And Industry 2.0, okay, beginnings of the 20th century, and is powered by electric energies, okay, electric motors, electric cities, okay. And Industry 3.0 is beginning, around the 70s in the last century, and okay, it's driven by the electronics and ITs and autonomous productions. Okay. And now we are in these days we mentioned about Industrial Revolution 4.0. Okay. So it's, of course, it's based on the cyber and physical interactions, and also what Professor Trace mentioned is also IAs, and also, the Internet of Things, right? So these are the 6 drivers, okay, for the change of the world's place brought by the Industrial 4.0. So first is the extreme longevity, okay? So people are living longer. So some statistics, estimate that by the 2025, okay, the number of Americans over 60s will increase 70%. Okay. And next is the rise of smart machines and systems. Okay. Then the computational world. Okay. And you know, even though for VR and recently, we also mentioned about augmented and mixed VR. Okay, that means we do some integration, not only the virtual reality, but also we integrate. What in the true life into the simulations. Okay. And the new measure of ecologies and superstructures, organization, and global connected worlds. Okay. So from these, from these drivers, 6 drivers. Okay, so the skill for, in the future needed in the Industry 4.0. We have, I list here 10 the skills that we need for Industry 4.0. Okay. So the first is the sense making. Okay. So it's driven by the smart machines. Okay. So today we also mentioned about the machine learning and now machine sensing. Okay. And social intelligence driven by the smart machines and also global connectivity. Okay. And novel and adaptive thinkings, cross-cultural competencies, and computational thinking. Okay. A new media for literacies. Okay. Next is the transdisciplinary design mindset and connective load management and virtual collaborations. Okay. So, what skill we need? For the Industry 4.0. So, what we need here in 2015, the 10 skills needed is the first complex problem solving, okay? And coordinating with others, people management, critical thinking, negotiation, quality control, and service orientation, judgment and decision making, active listening, and creativity. Okay, this is what the skills we need in the 2015. But in 2020, the skill is in this. Others. Okay. First is the complex problem solving, right? And creative thinking, creativity, people management, coordinating with others, emotional intelligence, okay? And judgment and decision making, service orientation, negotiation, and connective, flexibility. That means we can think about, simultaneously. We can easy to switch from this problem to other problem. Okay. And what we need to learn in the Industry 4.0, in the Industrial Revolution 4. Okay. So here's I lead here the 21st century skills. First is the fundamental literacies, okay? So, and next is the competencies and characters qualities. So in the fundamental literacies, we need the literacies, numeracy, scientific literacies, ICT, right? Information communication technologies, okay? And financial literacies and cultural and civic literacies. And for the competency, very important is the critical thinking and problem solving. Okay? And creativity, communication, and collaborations. And for the characters qualities, we need the qualities of curiosity, right? And interactive, persistence, adaptivity, leadership, and also social and cultural awareness. Okay. So, and to adapt with the Industry 4.0, today we also mentioned about the Education 4.0. So this is the drivers for to establish, to develop the Education 4.0. Okay, so here are the 10, the drivers for Education 4.0. First is the future skills, and it says, 10 100-year life. That means, I mentioned, people live longer, right? And millennial mindsets, digital and networks device, okay? And personal data, collaboration platform, talent investment, and share contents and resources. And finally, social progress. Okay. So what is the form of the industry, of the Education 4.0? So this is the characteristic of Industry 4.0, of the Education 4.0. It can be anywhere and anytime, okay? And it should be focused on personal. The same as Industry 4.0 is also, personalized, okay? So, it's also personal. And flexible delivery, peer and mentors, okay? That means you can learn from, in peer or from friends, something like that, together. And the question always why and where, not what and how, okay? And practical applications, modular and project-based. And students' ownership, that means, okay, this just focus on what the contribution of the students, of the learners in what they learned, okay? And we base, based on the evaluation, not based on examinations. Okay. So here are just some change the habits of the generation Z. So I just skip this. Okay. Okay. So why we need for in the education 4.0? Okay. So we can say is the development of education is from education 1.0 to 2.0 and 3.0 and 4.0. Okay. So education 1.0 is, the centuries of experience with memorization, and education 2.0 is the internet-based, enables learning, and 3.0 is consuming and producing the knowledge. And now we mentioned about in education 4.0 is empowering education and produce innovations. So I will give more detail about it. So the meanings of the terminologies, education 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, or 4.0. So the first is the education 1.0, that means dictates. Just the other teach what something, and we follow exactly what they teach. Okay, and in the education 2.0 is more, socially instructed, and usually with the aids of internet access. And 3.0 is socially constructed and contextually relevant knowledge. Education 4.0 is built through the selective, individual, and team-driven focus innovation practice. So that is the meaning of the education 4.0. And what technologies used for the education 4.0? So in education 1.0 is consists at the classroom door. Okay, and constantly adopted open access for 2.0, and for 3.0 everywhere, and for ubiquitous knowledge construction and transmission. And for education 4.0 is always change with the direct input of the learners, acting as the major source of the text evaluation in the service and innovation production. That means, the learner is the core in education 4.0. And for the teaching, that means the communication from teacher to student. And for 2.0, the teacher to student and student to teachers. Okay. And 3.0, okay, teacher to student, student to student, and student to teachers. And now in education 4.0 is amplified by positive innovation, feedback loops, ubiquitously and creatively, 24/7, right, in all phases of living, learning, and working. So with the support from the new technologies, okay. And for the school, the location, education 1.0 is in the building, okay, and education 2.0 in the building or online. 3.0 is everywhere in the creative society, okay, and now is in the education 4.0 should be the global network, human body, or continuous involvement instrument, innovative supplementing. Okay. So these are the alignment, okay, between the industry 4.0 and education 4.0. So here is the characteristics of on the left side, characteristic of industry 4.0, and here's the alignment characteristic of education 4.0. So here we have flexible production lines. One of the important is property in, say, smart materials. In smart factory, smart factory. Okay. So it's here the tailor makes a learning path. Okay? And online quality control, here is a formative assessment. Okay? And workers monitor automations, and teachers become the mentors. The teacher become the mentor, the facilitators. Okay? Custom products, and here divergence and pluralism. Okay? System engineering and education is the goal. Okay? And finally, long life learning and continuous teachers training. Okay, so that is the alignment of the Industry 4.0 and Education 4.0. So finally, I focus on the 5 I's of Learning Education 4.0. So here's, 5 approaches, okay, for learning in Education 4.0. First is the imbibing. So that means internalize the basic concepts. And next is the iterating, practicing fundamental skills rigorously, and interpreting. So the taking the facts from study and applying them to different situations and adaptive alternations. Okay? And interest, that means develop enough curiosity about the object so as to develop and create further body of the knowledge. And finally, innovation. So things different and come up with the original concept and build innovative ideas, okay? And innovative products and services. Okay? So I'll give more detail about this. Okay? So what is the imbibing approach? That means we form different sources. So you know, it's boredom says easily. For today's student, so we need to infuse the excitement from visual and also oral input. Okay. And for the iterates, so we should think about some fun games. Okay. So usually it's better to organize by some training course by some competition, right? Yeah. So we can use to get the teams evaluate through the projects. Competition. Okay. So the interest. Form student team, we form the student team and give open-ended project, involve the support or other avenues, okay? So for example, if what we teach in economics basis, so we can let students do a project about the valuations, okay, model of the football players, something like that, okay? And interest. Okay, so we cover one part of a concept in the class and get a group student to develop the remaining parts. So if we try to cover all of the knowledge in the course, so maybe it's also not a good way, and there are a lot of information we cannot do. So different group of the 4X concept, so this remove the states of fright and make them willing to participate in the course also. Right? And finally is innovative. So usually for the innovative, we should think about long projects and multidisciplinary projects, and where the several teachers can try together. So we guide the student for the innovations. Okay. So this is the end of my talk. Okay. Thank you, and we still have time for some questions. And beside this one, as I mentioned, you can make any question about engineering. Okay, so because my majors in engineering, so especially in smart structures and materials, one of the, says mega trends, okay, in the industry 4.0. Okay. So please.
Currently student in Thailand, King Mongkut University of Technology, Thonburi. I have a question is, in our traditional education system, we have the model to evaluate the results of education, right? Like we have learned, we have exams. So for the 4.0 education era, how can we evaluate it? Like it's very hard to do it, right? So how do we do it?
So
actually?
yeah, so it's it's not easy to change. A traditional in the training. So, but like in my universities, we focus very much on the project-based learning. So usually for course, we start by some introduction and we give projects, and the information and the knowledge we provide to the student. During that course is just how they can do that project, and finally we evaluate based on their projects, okay, results, okay. So that we do like that. So, and of course, in some courses we still need some final exam, but today we try to replace the examinations, evaluation through the examination by some project based. Okay.
Thank you, but like evaluate here, like we have aspect, we have we have elements to grade them, right? So what kind of grading system or scale can you use? Like, or you expect the project can be something new, something innovate, but we totally have no ideas how to determine what is new, what is innovate.
Yeah,
right?
So usually when we do kind of evaluation, we have we have to prepare very good rubrics. Some criteria to evaluate the students' performance. Okay, so we have some rubric, very clear rubrics. So that also the reason many people think that in the Industry 4.0 era or Education 4.0, the role of the lecturers, of the teachers, not important. But in fact, it's very important, right? To moderate students, they do different things, not easy at all. Okay, so on the role of as I mentioned, of the teachers in the new eras is to moderate, and how to do moderate, how to encourage the student, and how to evaluate them. They also require very large knowledge of the lecturers. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. So you have any others? Okay. So thank you again. Thank you very much. Okay, and I hope you have a good time. During study in Vietnam. And if you have any questions, especially about the smart factories or is industrial, no, not in, but smart materials, and also about augmented virtual realities. Okay, so you can contact me. So that is also my, research topics, research interests. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks again, Professor Nguyễn Quốc Hưng. And the next presentation is from Dr. Andrew Smith. His presentation is about skills required for career advancement. Please welcome Andrew to the stage.
Hello everyone. So my name's Dr. Smith. I'm from RMIT University and I'm a lecturer in the School of Science and Technology. So what I'm going to be presenting to you today is I'm going to be looking from another aspect, and that is the soft skills which are going to be required for you guys when you, well, in your current positions and from when you move on to your next position as well. So we've heard about the Industry 4.0 boom and where the technology is going. So what I want to discuss with you are the soft skills. How do you need to present yourself? How do you need to conduct yourself to be successful? So what I'm going to be focusing on are what skills are required for your career development. What do you need to do to nurture your soft skills so that you can be successful in the role that you want to be a part of. And I'll be looking at communication skills in particular and teamwork skills. Oops, wrong way. All right, so according to this reference, graduatecareers.com.au, there was a report that there's more that's needed than just the technical skills. So the technical skills are very important in the field that you want to contribute or work in. But there's also more to that. More to that are the soft skills, and that comes down to the fundamental attributes of the person. How well they communicate, how well they conduct themselves, how well can they work in a team. And if you like, you can go to this link here, graduatecareers.com, to get more of this information. So I'll go to the next slide and we'll just have a look at some of the data that they collected. So this was from a report in 2014. And if we look at the selection criteria results, if we have a look right up the top, one of the most desirable attributes that employers or other organisations were after were communication skills. And okay, it's not really too much of a surprise to see that, but it highlights the importance of the personal or the soft skills which are required out in industry or out in the organisation in which you want to contribute in. And if we have a look next, then come the academic results, and then third on the list is your teamwork skills. Right, in reality, when we go and do a job, do we really work alone? No, there's always some element of working in a team. So your teamwork skills is actually very important. How well can you work in a team? And actually, you'll find that a lot of these are interrelated. To work well within a team, you need to be able to communicate well within your team as well. And also, your team needs to be able to communicate externally as well. So that might be to your seniors, it might be to stakeholders, for example, or whoever else you might be involved with. And if we look down, then we come down, next on the list is aptitude. So that's when we get into your natural ability to conduct or do something. So I'm going to be focusing on the communication skills and the teamwork skills. As you can see, they're of prime importance. And if we look down the list, then we see other skills which are required. So if we move over to the next column, then we can see, all right, actually halfway down the list is relevant qualifications. Yes, your qualifications are still extremely important. You need to know what you're talking about. You need to know what you're going to be doing and how you can apply the knowledge in which you have obtained. But at the end of the day, what is most wanted from the people who will be employing you are really your communication skills, then come your academic results, your teamwork skills, and then the rest follow on. All right, and in contrast to that, let's have a look at some of the least desirable skills here. So up the top is actually the converse, which was on the previous table. So what's up on the top here is poor communication skills. So if you go into your role or if you go into a role and you might even find someone who has very poor communication skills, it has a big roll-on effect. Not only can that person can't communicate, but they eventually become more of a liability instead of an asset. All right, so the least desirable characteristic is actually, according to graduate careers, is poor communication skills. And then next is the poor motivational fit. So you need to be motivated in the role that you're going to go and present yourself or perform your work in. You need to show the motivation. You need to show an interest in what you're doing. And then next on the list is arrogance. And this is one area in which tends to be quite an issue, especially in engineering, is arrogance. It's very hard to work in a team or in a group where arrogance is quite high. So this was also, well, this was third on the list in terms of the least desirable skill sets when recruiting graduates. And then if we go next on the list, we come to the poor teamwork skills. So you could look at this list and go, well, you could ask yourself the question, what do I need in order to present myself to become a good employee or a good team worker or to be a good asset to where I'm going to go to next or where I currently am? So, as I said before, what I'm going to be focusing on mainly here are your communication skills and teamwork skills. If you can really nurture your communication skills, you'll probably find that a lot of other skills will start to come in as well. And also, if your communication skills are up to scratch, then you'll find that you'll be able to work in a team a lot more effectively. Yes, there are other skills in which you need to know, but communication really is of prime importance. It's actually one of those fundamentals of fundamentals in which you need to get right. How well can you communicate? All right, so let's have a look at the written communication. What do we mean by written communication? It's the ability to write effectively in a range of contexts and for a variety of different audiences and purpose with usually a command of the English language. So one of the messages that we get from this is you need to know your audience. Who are you going to communicate to? That's very important because if you've got a certain background or if you've got a certain language if you communicate, and I'm not necessarily talking cultural language here, I'm talking about just in the way how words are composed and some of the words which are used. And if the person you're communicating to uses different terminologies or different words or communicate differently, sometimes there can be issues. So it's very important to know who you're going to communicate to, what your audience is, so you know what to write, the correct words to use, and how to conduct yourself through words. So it's also the ability to tailor what you've written and, as we said, with your given audience. So this is one important skill when it comes to communication. You need to know your written communication skills are very important. You need to know how you're going to communicate to, because a lot of things are done via email these days. A lot of communication is done through electronics, okay? We still use emails on a daily basis. So your written communication skills are very important. All right, and then we can also go further abroad from email as an example. We've got all sorts of different communication mediums in which we can communicate to, such as SMS, email, discussion boards, chat rooms, instant messaging, and another one which, okay, it comes under discussion boards and chat rooms, but we've also got forums and various other means in which we can communicate. So really, to summarize this last point, you've got to know who you're going to be communicating to, the medium in which you're going to be communicating with, and also, if I could use the word, the the conduct or the etiquette which is required to communicate within this medium here. All right, so let's look at some effective communication. So first of all, we've got to choose an appropriate format. What is the right format address for your audience in a professional manner? So how would you conduct yourself in the appropriate manner? So again, it comes back down to knowing your audience, who you're going to communicate with or who you're going to communicate to, and how you're going to conduct yourself in the correct manner. What format? All right, so first of all, you need to start by identifying how the receivers are going to be reading your messages or your document or whatever communication channel you're going to use. All right, and once you know that, then you can start writing. So what I want to highlight here, it's important to have the knowledge first before you start writing. And often a mistake, and we see it time and time again, is one of the mistakes that happens is that people just start writing straight away because we just want to get the message across. Well, no, we've got to take a step back from that and go and think about who is it that we're going to communicate to, what is the audience, what is the format, what is the medium, and then start writing. Okay, so then we can start with addressing your audience, and you can then create an outline, and you'll probably find if you keep these simple things in, you'll find that your communication would actually improve a lot. So what we're talking about here are basics, but these are fundamentals and basics which do need to be nurtured and always can be improved upon. All right, so there's some other aspects which you might consider is, all right, do you need a template? Is there a construct? Is there an outline which must be followed when you're communicating? In this case, it's in a written form. So this is something else you would need to consider. All right, very importantly, when you're communicating, what are you communicating about? You need to be very clear on the theme in which you want to discuss or talk about. Quite often, when we receive communications from others, it's not very clear what the discussion topic is about. So identifying the main theme is very crucial. You've got to get that right. Because if you don't identify that main theme, and then if you go on to some of the subtopics, so to speak, it becomes confusing very quickly. And often what will happen is the person reading that will be there sitting trying to figure out what you have trying to communicate. And that's not what you want. So it's very important that you get that main theme. It's well communicated. Now, one of the best advices here, use simple language. Use language and words which other people will understand. And actually, this becomes even more important when we are communicating with people from different cultures or who, for example, English isn't their native language. Use simple language. It gets very difficult. If I use an email, for example, it gets extremely tough to read an email that's got a lot of complicated words in there in which people don't understand. And often what happens, the point isn't communicated. So use simple language. All right? And also, there's got to be some sort of structure to the content. We don't just want to write something, if I could use the word brainstorm, all our things down and it's out of order. That also makes it very hard to read and also reduces the effectiveness in the communication being put across. So the document has got to be well structured, or whether it's an email, the email has to be well structured, or whatever medium you're communicating through should be well structured in sequence, in sequential order. And also, one which we all know, and I'm sure we've all made mistakes, check for grammar and spelling. All right? There is nothing worse than when you're reading a communication from someone else, or whether you're sending one yourself and you find that there's actually some very embarrassing, in some cases, spelling mistakes and also grammatical errors. So always spend some time, even if it's a short amount of time, to get your spelling right and your grammatical points correct. So proofreading and checking is essential. All right, so now we'll look at teamwork. So there's some fundamentals in communication. And actually, before I move on to onto the teamwork, another thing which I'll add with the communication is your verbal communication. Verbal communication is very important to get your message across, okay? So I'll give you an example. I could be sitting here, or I could be standing here and communicating to you guys, but my mind, my thoughts could be totally somewhere else. You'll probably find if that was the case, then I would not be communicating to you very well. So my point here is that communication is actually more than just speaking words. You've got to get your point across. So usually, communication is all about intending to communicate something. So you've got to be here and intend to communicate. It's more than just speaking words. Okay, so teamwork. As we said before, no one really works alone. There is always some element, whether it might be very little in some cases or a lot in other cases, there's always elements of teamwork. So the ability to work effectively in a team is a very important skill in which you need to have in order to work effectively, perhaps in your current roles or in where you want to go to from your current roles. So you need to be individually brilliant and also have a strong core competencies, because teamwork is all about contributing to the group. Okay? It's not about a solo job. It's not about doing something on oneself. It's not even about taking an individual part and working on that yourself and then going, here's my part, I'm done. No, it's about working as a team. It's not about individual work. It's teamwork, as the name suggests. All right? And actually, and I'm sure everyone has experienced here before, working in teams, if there's the teamwork skills in a team is not fantastic, it makes it very difficult to work in a team. So, okay, what can you do, or what skills can you try and nurture to make your teamwork more effective? So what can we do? What is important? So what is teamwork all about? Okay, so I think some slides are around the wrong way here, but anyway, so before I go into more teamwork, I'm actually going to give some examples. So if you have a read of this first example here, this was a written communication, and have a quick read of this and see whether you can pinpoint some errors in communication here. What are some fundamental flaws in the communication? And also have a think about how this is going to be perceived by the reader. So put yourselves in both shoes, both as the person who may send it and also as the person who would be receiving it. And then you could have a look at the second example. What could be improved upon in this email that got sent? All right, so what's wrong? So let's look at the first case. So if we look at the first case, the subject line is very vague. Is it urgent? Doesn't communicate. So it comes back down to communication again. What is the main point? What is the main topic? What is the idea that you want to communicate? Just writing, hey, doesn't communicate anything. Next is capitalization. Now, this can be interpreted in quite a few different ways depending on what culture you come from. All right? So if we have a look at the first email, we can see that we've got very long in capitals. Well, actually, that can be taken to be quite offensive and quite abrupt. So we should avoid the use of capital letters in this context, all right, because it can come across quite offensively. So that's another thing in which we could improve upon there. Don't use capitalization in this context. Okay, and also if we have a look at this email as well, what can we notice about the spelling? And also probably what goes hand in hand with the spelling is the shorthand notation as well. Is this a good way to write a formal communication? No, not really. So we can have a look at this and we can see that there's quite a bit of shorthand notation, or perhaps communication that might be more suitable for SMS, for example, and also acronyms as well, such as LOL. So these are not very appropriate things to put in emails. All right, and also if we look at a bit more than what's written there, but we'll look at the context. So the next one is a lame excuse. So if we have a look at the first email, a request is asked for, and then the excuse is given. This is also not going to look as well. So, okay, this is in the context of a teacher-student scenario. So one advice here is okay, we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes and we all will make mistakes. But the difference here is we can take responsibility for the mistakes we've done. So what would be a better way of communicating this was, okay, I understand that this was my fault, for example. I understand that I should have taken responsibility for this. I'm now going to take responsibility for this. Is there anything that we can do? And that would be a better way of doing it. And it comes down to taking responsibility instead of finding excuses for things in which we have made mistakes for. And you'll probably find that that goes a longer way than what the excuses will. The excuses will usually be stopped and won't be looked at any further. So, responsibility is a key word. Take responsibility for those things in which you should have done, which you might not have done for whatever reason, and you'll find that actually it communicates and it will be received a lot better by the person who you're communicating with. So again, it's actually the next point that I've written here is not taking responsibility for the course content. So responsibility actually goes hand in hand with communication. You've got to take responsibility. All right, and also one of the most common things here is doing things at the last minute or doing things at not the greatest time or here just before the deadline of an assignment. So this also comes back down to how well you can plan yourself, how well you can plan your activities, time management. Not a good idea to always leave things to the last minute, okay? I'm sure we're all guilty of that at some point in time, but again, we can take responsibility for those times and plan with good time management and not leave things to the last minute. So again, sending an email at the maybe hours before the deadline or a very short time before the deadline is also not good, and it's not going to be well received. Okay? And there's a point here, a lecturer or staff member would probably, in some cases, not reply to the email, or you wouldn't get a very nice outcome. Okay, so if we compare the last two emails to this email here, we could write something like this, which is a bit more formal, takes more responsibility for the actions of the person that, okay, they shouldn't have done, and this comes across in more of a respectful tone and in more a professional manner. So the person reading this is likely to read this and is probably more willing to help. All right, so teamwork. What is the team? So we'll get back onto the teamwork. What is the teamwork about? So teamwork is about working in a group, and also within the group there's got to be some sort of leadership as well. All right? So there's a leader in a group who's usually responsible for the activities of the rest of the members, but also the other people in the group have some responsibility of leadership because they need to take control or take action on their part in the group as well. So leadership isn't just about the leader of the group. It is about every person in that group, because every person in that group has some responsibility for the final outcome of that activity. Okay? Now, it's about creating better outcomes. And one of the words which is very popular today is this word called synergy. All right? So if we take two people, for example, what is synergy? So one person can have an idea about a topic, another person can have another idea about a topic, but the synergy is the concept of if those two people combine their ideas together, the ideas and outcomes which are generated from that is far greater than what each individual person came up with. So this is the concept of synergy and also is strongly related to teamwork. And again, this comes back down to communication. Well, to work well within a team, you have to communicate well to all members within the team. If not, it doesn't become teamwork. So it's actually communication which binds the team together. It doesn't necessarily have to be in talking. You could be communicating via email because perhaps if we take the case where we've got a student project, for example, and the project work is done outside of class time and perhaps after hours, well, the communication medium might be through some form of chat room or it might be through email. But communication is of prime importance. So it's also about learning to be flexible, okay? In teamwork, there's always a bit of give and take. You can't always do things your ways and expect to do things your way. You have to see what everyone else in the group respect their ways of doing things and then negotiate and come up with, well, what is best for the team? Because the mindset here is, it's about the team. It's not about the individual. The dynamic here is about the group. So it's what is best for the group. It's not necessarily which is what is best for the individual, despite the fact that what the individual might say might be valid, it might be good. But the objective is it's what is best for the team. It's what's going to make that team work the best. So I think really the important part about teamwork is it's the mindset. The mindset is it's about the group. What is best for the group? So the more you can start thinking about how the group might benefit or what might be best for the group, instead of thinking, well, I'm thinking if I might do this action, this might be good. No, it's about the group. And that's the mindset and what you've got to start nurturing when it comes to teamwork. It's about the group. Okay? All right, so what are some issues related to teamwork which come up quite often? Well, the first one is usually difficult to get started. Okay, so you've got some task or some project in which you've got to accomplish or start doing. You've got a deadline. Often you find it hard to start. That is one difficulty. So what would be a solution if it was hard to start? Okay, so you've got some project and perhaps, all right, you're blank. We don't know where to go from here. Well, one of the best advices I can give there is, okay, well, perhaps you need to go and find out some more background information. You need to go find out more data about the project in which you're working on. All right? So that's one way how you can overcome difficulties in starting as a group. Okay? It usually means that you probably don't have enough data to operate on. You don't have enough information to go forward. And again, not about the individual, but as a group. It's about the group here. Okay, so other related issues is tasks not being completed on time. And yes, this is quite challenging because when there's many people in a group, you've got a deadline to meet, you are relying on everyone else to get things done within the correct time frame. And really, this one comes back down to basics in order to solve this. Communication. The more you communicate, the less issues you will have, and the issues that do come up will be resolved so much better. And of course, communication has to be done rationally as well. And communication also works very well when responsibility can be taken from an individual member instead of using the blame approach. Okay, so the third point we've already covered, so ideas not discussed properly. Well, yes, this is a common problem. At the end of the day, the only thing which is going to fix that is communication. Okay, so perhaps it might be difficult to communicate. Yes, it is, but the only way to overcome that is unfortunately with communication. Now, one which I'm sure we've all experienced before, perhaps in a team there is a difficult team member to work with. Well, what do you do there? Okay, you've got a couple of options. The first thing is, which is probably not the best option, is you could probably push that person out a little bit so the people who are cooperating can work as a team. Not the greatest solution because that causes more dissonance and actually divides the group up. So not really an effective solution. So, how could a team member be very difficult? Well, first of all, you might have one that's very arrogant, might know it all. So, how do you overcome that? You might have one which is very domineering, one who wants to take control of everything and must be done their way. Or too passive. You might have a person who's just very laid back and just happy to go along with whatever the other group members decide. And what about the team member who's always absent? Well, how are you going to work with a member that's always absent? It's not possible. It's not constructed towards a team. And also the last one is the ones who, I don't care. Well, that one's probably one of the most difficult ones. How can you overcome the challenges of a team member who doesn't care? Well, that's a very good question, is all I can answer to that. But how do we resolve the difficulties that we face in teams? Well, if we look at the first one, if we have a team member that is arrogant, one thing that is very possible there is ask questions. Now, one thing that an arrogant person, for example, doesn't like is being told whether they're right or wrong. So that's not the right approach. The best approach here, and I'm not saying it always works, but the better approach here would simply be to ask them a question. And the more rational and logical you can be in your question, the better this type of personality is likely to receive. So asking questions is actually a good method of overcoming, for example, if you have a team member that's quite arrogant, well, ask a question. Give them a scenario saying, well, does this actually work? If we have this situation, would this actually work? Have you considered this? And also, you've got to think about how to conduct yourself when you're asking such questions. So if you're asking a question that has some sort of antagonism, well, that's not going to be perceived very well as well. So it's another way in which you can greatly reduce difficult team members is how you conduct yourself. So often, if you've got a difficult team member, you have to come back to communication at some point. You need to be able to communicate to this person who is apparently difficult. And the best way is communication. Ask questions. Ask from what's going on from their perspective. And actually a good way to deal with this is, well, ask them. Get their opinion or their thoughts on why they're having a certain issue. Get some data from them. Once you have some data, then you can work with that. So I'll move on to the next one. So we've covered this quite a fair bit already, but ineffective communication. If there is no communication or if the communication is ineffective within a group, then the team actually really doesn't exist. Communication is one of the fundamentals that bonds the team together and creates teamwork. And the next point relates to the second previous point, so conflict amongst team members. So if there's conflicts, and conflicts are bound to happen because people have different ideas. Perhaps one person wants to implement something one way and another person wants to implement another thing this way. So how do you resolve conflicts? So these are the related issues that pop up in teamworks, and also is competency and inability. So you might have some members which don't actually have that ability to contribute to the team. So how do you overcome that? It's quite difficult. So perhaps you need to assign them, or the group leader might be responsible to assign them to a task which is more tailored to their abilities. So I think the last point here is there is always something that a person can do in a group. It's just a matter of finding their strengths, or maybe just inquiring what their strengths, what their abilities are, and then place them in a role in which they can do. So instead of writing a person off and saying, oh, they can't do it, they might be useless, well, inquire, what can they do? Be solutions oriented. Instead of focusing on the problem, focus on the solution. All right, so what can we do? So this person can't do that, understood. So what can we do? Tell me how you want to contribute, what you want to do. Be solutions oriented, and that actually goes a long way. Okay, so we've already gone over some of these points. So first of all, one of the key points in teamwork is listen carefully. If someone is communicating their viewpoint, or if want to communicate their idea, well, give them the respect that they deserve, and that is listen. Be attentive to what they might say. You don't necessarily have to agree, but be attentive nonetheless. Establish a common goal. So the other thing which unites a team or a group is having that common purpose in which you're all working towards. That is what a team is about. You're all working towards a common goal or a common purpose. So make sure this is well established and make sure that each member knows what this is. So you need to assign roles and make sure that every member knows what their role in that group is. If this is not that well defined or a little bit unclear, then that is one of the first things that needs to be established, or if it's not established well enough, it needs to be re-established. Very important. And also, with most teamwork that goes on, well, if not all teamwork, there is always a timeline. It can't go on indefinitely. So you need to make sure you know what your timeline is, establish when certain aspects need to be finished, and when the whole project or assignment that the team is working on, when that is finished as well. And also, when you create your timeline, make sure that you put into your timeline any potential issues which come up. Always schedule for some of the unexpected things which come up. They always happen, okay? So especially in the science and technology area, you're always going to come up against problems in which you didn't consider. That's the nature of the field. You might be able to predict some problems. That's fantastic. And a lot of this comes with experience as well. The more experience you have working on such things, okay, the more capable you will become in order to plan with the potential issues which might face. But you also need to plan, well, there might be some issues that you're not aware about that you only become aware about in doing some tasks. And these should be factored into the timeline. And another important point is documentation. You need to document. The team needs to write down and document or minute all the activities which go on. So this is another way how to communicate between all members within the group. It's another way to make sure the team is working as a team and not just as a group of solo individuals. And also outline your objective. So you've got the main objective, but you also have the objective of your current task in which each person is contributing to the group. So these are some of the aspects in which you can employ in order to make teamwork a lot more effective. And I think the other thing which I'll add here, there's no magic solution. It actually comes back down to fundamentals. It's like communication. There is no magic formula. It actually comes down to how well you know and how well you can apply your fundamentals. And we're talking fundamentals here in terms of soft skills. How well do you know your fundamentals, and how can you constantly improve on these fundamentals? All right, then we come into conflict resolution. So it's quite natural to come across conflicts in groups or in other situations. But what can you do about it? It's what you do about them which counts. Conflicts come up, some rational, some not quite so rational. But how do you resolve it? That is what counts. All right, first of all is to acknowledge a conflict. So what do I mean by that? So if, let's say, some person in a group has an issue, the best thing that you can do is to sit there and listen to the person. One of the worst things that you can actually do is sit there and justify, back up why you're right. Well, actually, perhaps this other person's got some point. You don't know. You're not going to know until you sit there and properly really listen to what they've got to say and acknowledge that. The acknowledgement is a very important point. For example, you might say, yes, I could see how that might be for you. Yes, I can actually understand that from your viewpoint. It doesn't necessarily mean to say that you agree, but you need to acknowledge that they've been heard and understood. And you'll actually find that this number one point here might actually resolve a lot of conflicts. It's the acknowledgement, because often people just want to be heard and listened. So how does a person know that they've been heard and listened to? They know that when they've been acknowledged. So you want to discuss the impact as well. All right, so you've got the conflict which comes up. What is the impact of that conflict? So that needs to be considered and discussed as well. And this is a team effort, so this one doesn't only work. One individual just can't implement this. This has to be a cooperative effort. There has to be a cooperative agreement or agree to a cooperative process. So that eventually has to come down to something where you can all agree on, okay? And yes, there's going to be some more issues which come up in that discussion. There's going to be perhaps more conflicts which come up, but eventually what your immediate goal there is, you've got to agree on something at the end of the day so you can move forward. Because again, this is about teamwork. If you can't get an agreement on how to move forward, then the team disintegrates. The team becomes less, and eventually you might find that you have no more team, and that is a disaster in itself. Communication, in my opinion, is the fundamentals of fundamentals. This is what will make or break, or just about make or break. It's not just the fact of communicating or not communicating, it's how well you communicate. And also, a part of communication is letting another person to communicate and also acknowledging what they've got to say. That is a part of communication as well. All right, so understand the situation, understand what other people have got to say, and work from a group perspective to resolve these conflicts. And also, one effective method which you can do is you could just simply list facts and situations without taking sides. Now, one of the things that's very important in conflict resolution, but also in other fields, is to distinguish what is an opinion and what is data. Opinion is another person's viewpoint or take on something. Data is something that is factual, something that is true. It's very important to distinguish what is data and what is an opinion. And you'll find that it is the data that will actually remain true. The data can't be mistaken. It's true. It works. So we want to list the facts and the situations without taking sides. And really, what works here is working with data. Yes, opinions are important to know how other people feel, but at the end of the day, you've got to work with data. It's the data which holds true. The opinions may be right, they may be wrong, but you have no data to back that up. So list facts and situations without taking sides. All right, you can analyse the list of facts and situations, so that can be talked about cooperatively amongst all groups. Listen to both sides of the story. So this is actually one of those things that isn't so easy to do, but if you're a person that's in between a conflict, for example, you need to be able to listen to both sides of the stories and not take sides. The moment that you take sides, or what is also seen as favouring one side, it's lost. You won't resolve the conflict. So you need to be able to stand back from the conflict and have a listen to both sides and understand the situation without taking sides. And then, importantly, a decision needs to be made. At the end of the day, a decision has to be made so you can move forward, okay? Without that decision, and without that decision that is understood by the team, or that decision that is made by the team, then the whole team won't move forward. So it's important that the team, the group, makes the decision. We're not talking about an individual who's made decision. The group has to make that decision. Otherwise, again, the team disintegrates. Now, so there's also situations that what if no resolution can be come up with? What if that conflicts keep on going? What if that you just don't get anywhere? Well, then you get into a very interesting situation. So what would be the answer there? What could you do? Well, perhaps that's when you might consult someone external. It might be a senior. It might be another colleague who's not involved in the team to come in and, importantly, be impartial to the situation, and that is not take sides, and get another viewpoint. That's the solution. It may or may not work, but this one becomes a very difficult situation if no resolutions can be reached. So ultimately, what you want to do is want to reach an agreement, and very importantly, you may not agree with the agreement which has been reached or the decision, but we've got to come back down to what is the objective? What's the objective of the group? The objective of the group is to meet some project objective or to produce something. Okay, so perhaps you've got to look at it from the viewpoint and go, well, okay, I may not necessarily agree with what's happened or the outcome of that, but if it's for the good of the group and what we want to achieve, then I can respect it. Got an issue. I think this. Can you go to the next slide? That's it. That's it. Okay, so that's the last slide. So thank you for your attention in listening to the presentation. I hope that there's some valuable information that you can take away from this. So before I conclude, are there any questions that anyone would like to ask? Okay, well, thank you once again.
Thank you, Dr. Andrew Smith, for your speech. Before ending the show, I would like to invite all of the delegate and the distinguished guests to come off the stage to have the picture together. Please welcome. Dạ, xin kính mời quý vị đại biểu và các bạn sinh viên mình cùng tiến lên sân khấu để có một tấm hình lưu niệm chung ạ. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the blending session. We would like to invite all the participants and students to have luncheon in a arranged area. The panel section will be continued at 1 p.m. in the meeting rooms. Thank you for your kind attention.
Hello, hello.